Hi everyone, welcome to section 3.2 of chapter 3. I'm Anu Siddiqui and I will be helping you through this section of chapter 3 today. So basically, section 3.2 is called the reciprocal of a quadratic function. When I'm talking about reciprocal of a quadratic function, basically I just mean when one is in the numerator and a quadratic function is in the denominator, as you can see. In my example, I have 1 over 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. Our first step is always going to be to factor it. As you can see, I factored it here to 2x plus 4 and then x plus 1. When you factor it, basically you should get restrictions of -2 and -1, right? After you isolate for x in both cases. And basically that ends up becoming your vertical asymptotes. What you're going to notice is the only difference is before we had one vertical asymptote, right, in 3.1, but now we have two vertical asymptotes, okay? So basically that was our first step. First step is you get the function, factor it. If it's on a test, factor it. And from the factoring is how you're going to get your restrictions and your vertical asymptotes. Okay, moving on. You must be wondering, how do you graph this? Well, how you graph this is basically, in section 3.1, you were to make, you basically made 4 charts, right? You would only make these 4 charts. But now, in section 3.2, you have to make 6 charts. And the 6 is for the reason that in section 3.1, you'd only have to make 4 charts. 2 of them would be for how when x approaches positive or negative infinity. And the other 2 would be for when x approaches your vertical asymptote from the negative or from the positive side. But now we have 2 vertical asymptotes, so you need to understand that how before you only used to do it for 1, now you just have to add the second set of 2 charts for when your vertical asymptote, when x approaches your vertical asymptote from the positive or negative, okay? So you have 2 of those now. So as you can see, I've got x approaches -2 from the positive side, and then x approaches -2 from the negative side, okay? And then x approaches -1 from the positive side, and x approaches -1 from the negative side. So yeah, basically that's how it should be. And now moving on from there, I'm just going to show you guys actually how to graph it. So normally in section 3.1, you learned how to graph it, right? You would just take your points and you would like just plot them on the graph. And so with your end behavior. So as you can see, I used -2, right, for the positive side. And then I just, as the x approaches -2 to the positive side, y approaches negative infinity. So I got my first one, which is down here, right? Right, this one. But yes, basically, you know how to do that, right? You take your end behaviors and you do whatever. But you're going to notice that because it's a reciprocal of a quadratic function, this ends up happening. Whoa! A parabola! Whoa! Crazy, right? A parabola ends up coming out of nowhere. And so that parabola, you just need to understand, arrives when there is a quadratic function, right? So basically, the only difference from 3.1 and 3.2 is this parabola is added. You need 2 more charts, and just remember to factor. And just remember, guys, you also need to legitimize your graph. So I did that here with f of 0, f of -1, and f of -2. Plot, plot, plot. And there you go, I have my graph. Thank you so much. This was section 3.2. I really hope you guys understood, because don't worry, it was simple. Factor, 2 more charts, and parabola is added. And yeah, it's not that difficult nor that different. So hope you guys liked it. Thank you very much. This is Anu Siddiqui, section 3.2, chapter 3.